Welcome to San Pedro, California, home to Voxel Micro Video Labs. I'm your host, and today we're investigating a very modern, very specific kind of graveyard. This chart tracks podcast survival rates. Right after episode 3, we see a massive cliff. 50% of new shows crash before their 4th episode. We call this pod fade. As the timeline reaches episode 20, the data shows a zero growth flatline where production ceases. The reason for this mass die-out usually looks something like this. A business owner orders a pile of budget gear, untangles cables, and rushes to hit record without answering the hard, strategic questions first. A show's lifespan is rarely decided by what happens inside the recording booth. Long before a camera rolls or a microphone is plugged in, the structural integrity of a podcast is built during rigorous, hidden strategic planning. The first step to avoiding pod fade is executing a brutally honest internal audit. You have to look closely at what your business can actually sustain week after week. You have to lock in your primary objective. Are you building this show to generate direct, measurable sales leads? Or are you trying to build broad, top-of-mind brand awareness in your industry? Your entire format hinges on that answer. Take a look at this timeline roadmap, projecting effort against return on investment. For the first half of the year, effort is immense, and audience growth is slow. The actual spike in return on investment rarely appears until after month 6. Building a profitable audience demands a minimum 6 to 12-month commitment. Then comes the host. Putting your most charismatic employee on the mic sounds like a good idea, but listeners tune in to solve their own problems. Your host needs to be a recognized subject matter expert who can speak with deep authority. But expertise alone isn't enough. That expert must actually possess the calendar flexibility to sit down and record on a rigid, recurring schedule. When the executive team is misaligned on goals, or the host lacks the bandwidth to show up, the podcast fails before the first piece of equipment is ever purchased. Once the internal audit is clear, the focus has to shift outward. It's time to interrogate the market and define your targeted niche. There is a strange paradox in audience building. If you design a business podcast to appeal to everyone, the messaging becomes so diluted that it captures the attention of absolutely no one. This diagram illustrates how audience filtering works. A bookkeeper shouldn't try to capture the massive, chaotic top of the funnel by making a general finance show. Instead, they need to filter down to a highly specific target at the bottom, like a show strictly dedicated to tax strategies for real estate agents. To find that target, you have to reverse engineer audience demand. You do this by intercepting actual pain points using tools like YouTube Autocomplete, combing through specific Reddit forums, or pulling data from customer surveys. Answering existing, highly searched questions builds a direct path to new clients. In contrast, broadcasting unresearched corporate talking points rarely generates enough momentum to break through the noise of the market. With the audience defined, we reach the final phase of the blueprint, codifying the show's structural framework and packaging it so discovery algorithms know exactly who to serve it to. This starts with the title. Clever puns and inside jokes are useless to a search engine. Your title must be overtly clear, heavily featuring the exact search terms your niche audience is looking for. Next, the business must formally commit to a rigid format. You have to decide if the show relies on solo educational broadcasts, a dedicated co-host dynamic, or a rotating schedule of strategic guest interviews. To survive the grueling production schedule, you have to utilize a logistical technique called batching. This means strictly outlining and planning the first 2 full months of episode content before launch day. When a show is fully architected in advance, it operates as an automated, targeted content engine. It completely eliminates the exhausting weekly scramble for new ideas that drives most creators to quit. When a business completes this pre-production dossier, they enter the studio armed with a precise audience profile and a fully populated topic roadmap. Because every episode is engineered to answer specific pre-researched questions, the podcast is perfectly positioned to capture and convert organic search traffic across platforms like YouTube and Spotify. Stepping in front of a camera only makes sense once the strategy is locked, vetted, and mapped out. And that is exactly where Voxel Micro Video Labs here in San Pedro comes into the picture. We are the final destination for executing that meticulously planned strategy. The blueprint is brought to life with the highest possible fidelity. We elevate the strategy using pristine audio engineering, multi-angle 4K camera arrays, and professional studio lighting. When bulletproof pre-production strategy meets high-end studio execution, a business easily bypasses the 20-episode graveyard. Instead of fading away, the podcast becomes a lasting pillar of industry authority.